What is wrong with us? The first position, the most important thing for African people is to declare that we are not inferior to any race anywhere in the world. That Africans are human beings like Ukrainians, Africans are human beings like Russians, Africans are human beings like people of the United States of America, and so on. We are not inferior. That is the most important point. Here we are, supporting resolutions which resolve nothing, and so on. Resolutions which resolve nothing. And worrying our heads over who is winning the war. Is this a war which can be won? Who can win this war? This war started, this active war started 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Over the last 8 years, there have been all kinds of efforts to avert escalation. Why? The Russians have come forward and said, look, we cannot tolerate this situation in which you are placing your deadliest weapons only 15 minutes from our capital, Moscow. Which country will tolerate that? Tell me which country in the world will tolerate that. Have we forgotten the Cuban Missile Crisis?
19 miles.
1961. The Russians positioned their weapons at the invitations of Cuba, also a sovereign state, 90 miles from the United States of America. And there was mayhem, complete mayhem. The US threatened to sink Cuba, It's a fact. Who protested? The US threatened to sink Cuba. The Russians quickly agreed to withdraw their weapons in order to avert the situation that we are seeing in Ukraine today. But NATO and its allies have systematically been trying to surround Russia to put Moscow only 15 minutes from attack, denying Russians the chance to defend themselves in event of war and so on. Take that into consideration. The strangest story I've heard is that the Russian military is targeting civilians. You know, sometimes they speak at both sides of their mouth. I'm sure you've heard reports, and this morning those reports were repeated on all the Western media outlets, that Ukrainians with their bare hands walk in front of Russian tanks and stop them from moving. How can you say this and say they are targeting civilians? Civilians who with their bare hands without any weapons confront tanks and stop the tanks from moving. And say the Russians are indiscriminately killing civilians. How do you put these two statements together to make sense? My brother, I hope you listen to what I'm saying.
I'm getting it.
They are saying that Ukrainian civilians without any weapons, bare hands, they get into the streets and they use their bare hands to stop the Russian tanks. And yet they say they are indiscriminately targeting civilians. Does this make sense? This is speaking at both ends of their mouth. It simply doesn't make any sense at all. Now, if you look at the discrimination against the Africans, diplomats with diplomatic passports are being harassed by Ukrainian security forces and by some of the neighboring countries. Yesterday, I had the privilege of speaking to Honorable Okudjato Ablakwa, who is now in Romania, you know, on a fact-finding mission and so on. And he was full of praise for the Romanian authorities. And was saying that the Romanian authorities are treating the Africans with dignity and so on. We salute the Romanian authorities for their behavior towards the African, people and so on. But what about the others? I was listening to the British Broadcasting Corporation, And the British Broadcasting Corporation, there was a Nigerian student who was saying that, look, these Ukrainian security forces and some of the neighboring countries, they treat the dogs of the Ukrainians better than the Africans. They allow dogs to pass and leave Africans there to suffer from this excruciating weather and so on. And we are here doing what? Supporting Ukraine? For what purpose? You know, what is happening in Ukraine has serious repercussions for all of us, everybody, anywhere in the world. Nobody can support war. War is dangerous. War does not resolve any problem. And in any situation of war, those who suffer are the underprivileged. They are the working people and so on. The destruction of national infrastructure, the loss of lives, and so on, is not in anybody's interest. So at best, what we can be calling for today is an immediate ceasefire and return to the negotiating tables. We have to recognize what the French president, Emmanuel Macron, has said. Emmanuel Macron has said in plain language, in plain French, that the Russians have legitimate security interests. What are those legitimate security interests? If Emmanuel Macron recognizes that the Russians have legitimate security interests, we must be taking it seriously. They have legitimate security interests. If you were head of state of Russia, would you sit there for your country to be completely encircled and deny the right to response in the event of an attack? Let's get real. First and foremost, we are Africans and we need to protect African interests. Look, these Western countries, they urge you on. They continuously urge you on. They were telling Zelensky to stand and fight. You know, we will support you and so on. When the Russians started rolling their tanks into Ukraine, what did the United States do? The United States called Zelensky and said, hey, they are coming, run away. They told him to run away. That is the nature of their support. They said, run away, my friend, and offered him assistance to run away. That is the support they give to those who recklessly and without regard to their own interests toe the line. This war essentially is between NATO and Russia. This war, Ukraine only happens to be the territory within which this war is being fought. But this war is essentially between NATO and Russia. Yes, sir. And I'm sitting back and I'm wondering, in the past we were told that there was a Cold War, a battle between communists and capitalists. Today, where is communism? Today, as we speak, Russia is not a communist state. As we speak, Russia is as a capitalist as the United States of America, or even maybe more, and so on. So what is the battle about? This is a contest between two nationalisms. Russian nationalism and American nationalism. That's all. And we want to be caught in the middle of two nationalist battles, to be caught in the middle of a battle in which even Africans are not respected as human beings and so on. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with our leaders? I can't believe this. In any case, the United States of America, which is trumpeting human rights and so on, the human rights of African Americans in the United States of America are constantly being violated. Within the last 2 years, look at the number of African Americans whose human rights have been trampled under feet of the U.S. security establishment. Look at the case of George Floyd and so on. What is human rights? When the United States and its allies decided to go to Iraq, were they guided by the principles they are espousing today? In any case, they went to Iraq on a false pretext, on a pretext that Saddam Hussein and his government had access to weapons of mass destruction. Today we know that it was a lie. They deceived the whole world into looking on whilst they went into Iraq and committed serious atrocities against the people of Iraq. How many millions have not died in Iraq? And as we speak, the U.S. is still an occupying force in Iraq. If the U.S. is opposed to occupation, they should leave Iraq. They are in Iraq as an occupying force, and they are making useless noises about an occupation force in Ukraine. Does it make sense? Why? As we speak, there are still American soldiers in Afghanistan. Why? Afghanistan can be invaded. Ukraine cannot be invaded. Double standards, my friend. Yesterday, there was so much noise about 140-something countries voting for a resolution against so-called Russian invasion of Ukraine. Check the UN record. All the countries of the world with the exception of about 3 or 4, sometimes 5, vote against the crippling criminal sanctions on Cuba. Does the U.S. respect the UN resolutions, General Assembly resolutions? How many of those countries, today making so much noise about Ukraine, have ever respected UN General Assembly resolutions on Cuba, on Yemen, on Palestine, and so on? Do they respect those resolutions? They have set a precedent of not respecting these resolutions. And then today we are told that the International Criminal Court is investigating war crimes. When the International Criminal Court decided to investigate war crimes committed in Iraq, what did the United States of America say? It says it would not allow the International Criminal Court to do so. It actually imposed sanctions on the Gambian lady who was chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court. Have we forgotten so soon? Why is our memory so short? Why is our memory so short? The International Criminal Court would not investigate human rights abuses, war crimes in Afghanistan, but it will investigate human rights abuses and war crimes committed by Russia. What double standards? What hypocrisy? I can't believe it. We have to take a stand for African people. We have to insist that the African people are not inferior to any other people anywhere in the world. We are not inferior, and we must insist on our rights everywhere in the world. That is what our African leaders ought to be doing, and not this. Masa, let's move on.
Right, thank you very much. Interesting submission there by Kwesi Pratt Jr.
Invasion and the struggling people of the Eastern Europeans. Yesterday I was at GTV and I made a statement and I said that Ghana's endorsement of the condemnation of Russia was hasty decision and unacceptable. We are a NAM country, a non-aligned country, and so if you belong to the UN Security Council, it doesn't make you want to vote along with other countries because you have suddenly fallen in love with America or some other country, and therefore would follow to condemn Russia. And I also said that, look, when you see a country going into war, it is not because they want to see blood and death. There must be some tangible reason for which they are doing it. And so when you just look at that surfacely and condemn them for what it is, you can no longer be an agent of peace. You can't be a source of dialogue or anything that will bring about diplomatic solutions, because you've taken sides already. So Ghana's position in this one is unacceptable. I think that we could have maintained the call for peace, as our big brother has said, and then caution that we should avoid war. But to judge and say one is wrong and I'm here condemning you was unacceptable.
Right.
Let me just a little bit, a wee bit. I find Ghana's position absolutely strange, and I'm in full agreement with Honorable Rashid Pepo on his position on the stand that Ghana has taken. That stand that Ghana has taken, what sense does it make? If you watch the current trend, it is quite clear that there are two blocks involved in this conflict. You find on one side Russia, India, China, and Iran. Clear.
And United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, clear. I mean, I'm talking about the big, powerful nations.
Okay.
China, Russia, India, and Iran on one side. This alone should tell us that it is not a simple case of Russia waging a war of aggression. And that even if you want to be opportunistic, I'm opposed to being opportunistic in these instances. I believe that we should be principled. But even if you want to be opportunistic, the stand we have taken, how does it benefit us? We are going to take a stand against China, take a stand against Russia, take a stand against India, and take a stand against Iran. How sensible are we? I believe that we should be principled. And what should guide us, first and foremost, is that war is nothing to promote. War is not something that anybody should promote. So as quickly as possible, there should be a ceasefire, immediate unconditional ceasefire should be our demand. Secondly, all the warring parties should go back to the negotiation table and take account of Russia's legitimate security interests so that we can end this war. Most important, all these measures which are being thrown about and so on, it will affect us more than anybody else. As at this morning, the price of crude is around $113 per barrel. We're already dying. Even before this war, petroleum prices had risen up to 8 cedis per liter. You understand? With this war, how much are we going to pay for petrol? We should be thinking about that. The Western countries, Germany and others, are saying that, oh yes, impose sanctions, but please, when we are imposing sanctions, don't target Russia's energy supply. Why do you think they're saying that? Because if Russia's energy supply is attacked, it will have what they call the blowback effect. It will affect them. It will lead to rising cost of energy. They may not be able to provide heating for their citizens in winter. You understand? They may not be able to provide heating facilities for their citizens in winter. There's likely to be problems in Western Europe and so on. So they are imposing the sanctions and say, no, be careful so that these sanctions we impose does not affect us. What is Africa saying? What are our leaders saying? Are we also not saying that? Shouldn't we also be saying that these sanctions we are imposing, make sure that it doesn't affect us? They don't want the sanctions to affect them, and we are supporting everything and anything they do. What type of leaders do we have in Africa?
Thank you so much. And let me again remind you that we are live on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Pan-African Television. Do well to send in your thoughts, your messages, and I'll be more than happy to read all of them for you. Let's get into our next story now. The Dean of the University of Ghana School of Law, Raymond Atuguba, he had a constitutional review lecture a few days ago, and then he made some interesting comments. He talked about the economy, and he also touched on the fact that if nothing is done about this economy, which is in a quagmire, there could be a coup d'etat. Some people in the New Patriotic Party have not taken this comment lightly, and some are even calling for him to be invited by the BNI for investigations. And the Minister of Information has also spoken about it. He has also responded, and I think we all know the issues about Raymond Atuguba and the fact that he made those comments at that constitutional review lecture. Let me start with Honorable Inusaf Husseini on this issue. See if his comments even warrant a call up to the BNI in the first place.
Well, thank you so very much. I think that basically Raymond Atuguba was delivering a keynote address at Erata Hotel, organized by Solidaire Ghana on the 1992 Constitution. And he was letting us in on his thoughts about what is happening in Ghana. It's a known fact that the situation in Ghana here today, as alluded by my brother Kwesi Pratt a few minutes ago, is getting terrible by the day. The price of a liter of petrol or diesel at the pumps has now exceeded 8 cedis per liter. The economic conditions have manifested themselves in the size of a ball of kenkey. Cocoa is no longer selling at 1 cedi.
Yeah.
The base line rate is 1 cedi 50 pesos. The size of Kwesi has reduced drastically. A bag of maize is selling between 280 to 350 cedis. So things are getting terrible. The inflation is skyrocketing. Government has not paid salaries, or at least has not paid the salaries on the day that it said it will pay, 25th of February. I don't know whether some public workers have received their salaries by now. So when you look at the picture, MPs have not been paid. I mean, so to Parliament. When I was in Parliament, the understanding that was reached between the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of and the Parliamentary Service was that the budget of Parliament was released quarterly, and so that Parliament could manage the budget. So if Parliament has not been paid, it stands to reason that Parliament has not received its quarterly allocations. And so clearly, the picture that comes out from all these observations is that Ghana is in dire straits. Matters have not been helped by the statement by the finance minister, who says that the legitimate reality now is that Ghana is broke. I mean, we don't have money. And so Raymond Atubga, Professor Raymond Atubga, was saying that, look, when you look at the studies conducted by experts in why coups succeed, the economy plays a major role. And so we must watch it. We must take steps to ensure that the economy, the nature of our economy now, the hardship that has been imposed on the people of this country by the policies of government, does not result into a coup. We must watch it. He made a profound statement as a prelude to the coup statements, and it's important that I read it out so that Ghanaians understand that he made a profound statement. He said, we, and we here means we Ghanaians, yes. we do not want a coup in this country. It's emphatic.
Yeah.
We do not want a coup in this country. Yet I fear, it's apprehensive, I fear that if we do not act quickly, we may have one on our hands, yes, very soon. What is acting quickly? He says that, look, even though the e-levy is a wicked and insensitive tax policy, we must pass it, because otherwise we could be in dire straits. And why are they not talking about that? Why haven't they commented on that? Nobody's commenting on his endorsement on the passage of the e-levy, except what he said about a coup. And I don't know what is making the government so jittery when the coup is mentioned. Vomo, a law student, doctoral student, says that if e-levy is passed, he personally will stage a coup. And he's now in court. Have been denied bail. Has been held for treason felony. Vomo has no capacity whatsoever to stage a coup d'etat. But he's been kept because government is just panicking. I mean, government should not panic. I think the people of Ghana have made a decision, and the decision is simple: that we will let Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo stay his tenure in the office, because we want the performance of the MPP to be complete, and or the MPP and Akufo-Addo to be complete, to serve as a basis for comparison with earlier governments. And particularly, as an NDC sympathizer, I would love to see Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo complete his term. Because we had said that there's a world of difference between talk and action. We had told the people of this country in 2016 that yes, even though there were challenges, John Dramani Mahama was on top of those challenges. I remember his statement to the nation in 2016 when he said that he, John Dramani Mahama, takes responsibility for Tumso and that he will fix that problem. And by the end of 2016, that problem was fixed. That is what leaders do. When we face the problem of the fall of the cedi and the lack of opportunities in this country, we organize the Senchi Consensus to find ways of dealing with those problems, to build national consensus on how to deal with those problems. That national consensus helped the government to put the country on a sound trajectory because we had built national consensus and taken that consensus to the IMF. That resulted in the budget support that we received and the monitoring of the consensus that we had arrived at Senchi. So clearly, this government said, well, they will not take their government or the country to IMF. And they are now faced with the devil and the deep blue sea. The devil, e-levy. The deep blue sea, IMF. If you don't pass the e-levy, you are on your sure way to IMF. But even as a political watcher, it is not as simple as that. It's not a binary question. Because the wastage in the system is saying that if we are able to discipline ourselves, a government is to discipline itself and stop the reckless expenditure that is yielding nothing to this country, probably we will be able to put this country on a sound footing. If we are able to stop the leakages, the Auditor General says that 12 point something billion, I think 12.8 billion Ghana cedis was lost to the country in 2020 or 2021. So if we're able to stop it, that 12 point something billion becomes available to Ghana. If we are able to stop the corruption, the pervasive corruption, which has reached unprecedented levels in this country, which has permeated all fabric of the society, which is making Ghanaians lose confidence in the political class. If we are able to stop or reduce the level of corruption that is pervasive in this country, there will be money for this country to spend. So, yes, Kujopon Nkrumah has responded to Atubga. Government has responded. I also read one upon Razak's response to Atubga. Atubga is not saying that he supports a coup d'etat in Ghana. He says we don't want a coup d'etat in Ghana. Yeah. He's a law lecturer as well as the dean of the Faculty of Law. Yeah. He says he, as a child, has seen the effects of coup d'etats in his family and in the many people in this country who suffered the consequences of a coup. I don't think that he prays that anybody should suffer those consequences. So why will he support a coup d'etat? But we are deeply concerned, we are deeply worried that Ghana is in dire straits, largely by reason of wrong policy initiatives that are grandiose but intended to achieve nothing. I said it in Parliament when we were there in the first time of Akufo-Addo, that the policies are high sounding. They are like Shakespeare said in Macbeth. The policies are like a story, quote, are like a story, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Nothing. So I mean, you will hear and they will dance to that. They even commissioned musicians to produce music on their policies. They dance to free senior high school. When we suggested that, the free senior high school should not be implemented in the way it's being implemented, they lambasted us. They said we were naysayers. That naysayers in quote by Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. He said naysayers. Today, are they not saying that? Their finance minister led the chorus, saying that, well, he is prepared to pay the fees of his children. I said, look, when you see strategic thinkers like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, you understand how policies are implemented. Policies are implemented to bridge a gap. Social policies must bridge a gap, must address social divisions caused by effects of policy over a period of time. So when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah introduced free education for people in the north, it was in recognition of the fact that colonial policy on education centered largely in the southern sector, and that created a developmental gap between the north and the south, and that you could not develop the country as a whole if you didn't close that gap. That's how social policy. I mean, we are socialists. We are social democrats. And so when we are implementing, I mean, if a liberal democrat turns himself into a social democrat, he implements social policies in the reverse order. That's the reverse order they have done. Building one village, one dam. We ask the question, what was the strategic blueprint for one village, one dam? Did we identify agricultural produce, potential agricultural areas where dams were going to be built for dry season gardening? What was the blueprint? They said we didn't understand. They said one village, one factory. We said yes, it's good. It's an industrial policy. But what is driving that? Because the setting up of a factory must be driven by market forces. So what is driving that? When we asked the question, they said, well, we should wait. When they finish, we will see. Like G.H. Mensah answered Bagbin that when the money that was going to be secured in the barber shop came, they will use part to develop Nadoli, and then he will see that they were serious in getting the money. The money never came. The money never came. He said that in Jamestown, the late G.H. Mensah. The money never came. And so, yes, we don't want a coup. We will support a coup.
Sure.
We will fight against a coup d'etat. We will take up arms and fight any attempt to destabilize this democratic order. That is what we intend to leave for our children and our children's children. But government, opposition to government policy is intended to change political action of government. Right. And the political decision of government manifested in their policies is wreaking havoc on the lives of the people.
Right. Thank you so much. Honorable Rashid Pelpo.
Well, thank you so much. I often believe that government has recognized its own failures and is inciting a lot of responses that shouldn't come at all. I put on Twitter last night, that it is the quick response, the unnecessary response by governments, often about coup remarks, that is making coups popular now. The idea of coups popular. If we let it pass, nothing happens. People have free speech. They speculate, they let it go. This man was just speaking at an intellectual forum. I mean, as an intellectual, he was speaking as an intellectual. He made references to somebody who did some research on coups, why coups happened. And then a chief reason was the economy. And he said, if that is the case, Ghana is within that range. But we have to be careful. There's nothing wrong with that. He just was notifying us about the dangers. So if government is so jittery and so worried and keeps making remarks and arresting people who are making remarks about these things, government is drawing attention to coup d'etats rather, not the people who are making it, because they make it at very small forums and maybe heard by several other people, but no action will be taken if government doesn't come in to take action. Government intervention prolongs or extends the reach of the remarks. I said that government is afraid of its own failure. Have you heard Nanado talking about 350 senior high secondary schools that were built within their first term of office? Has one been built? Have you heard about the $1 million for every constituency? I'm in the constituency, I've not got it. Have you heard about the 88 hospitals that said they were built?
111.
Have you heard about the harbors, the harbor they said they were built in Qatar?
And Cape Coast.
And Cape Coast? Have you heard about the airport they said they were built in Cape Coast? Have you heard about that they were electronized, what do you call them?
The Trumps. The Trumps.
Yes. And all kinds of lies they have said, which signifies, like my brother has said, signifies nothing. They just make promises and don't fulfill them because they can't. They have gone to borrow much more than anybody has borrowed. Narrow the physical space, they can't do anything more. They have put Ghanaians in a very terrible economic situation right now. Have we heard about Baumia saying that there's money in the system? If nothing at all, Bank of Ghana has enough money, they won't go borrowing. And have you now known that Ghana has borrowed more than any other country? Not any other government in the history of Ghana. We have borrowed much more within 5 years than any country, than any government ever existed in Ghana. And can you show us exactly what they have done? Solid enough for Ghanaians to say, when they borrowed money, it is our roads they repaired, it is our schools they built, it is the hospitals they put up, it is this, that they have done, we are happy. Nothing like that. So where is the money? And have you heard them complaining all the time that it's because of COVID? Meanwhile, COVID alone has rained them 8 billion Ghana cedis, much more than the money they are looking for the e-levy. So where is the challenge? These monies that came to you, you use it to address COVID challenge. It means that the gap you would have expected to be created because of lack of funding had already been created by the World Bank, by the IMF, by your own contributions in this country. So where is the gap which made it impossible for you to have reached somewhere that you haven't reached, that every failure you now begin to recognize? We are talking about COVID. So it is their failure which is manifesting in everything, in the worries expressed by the people of Ghana, and it is their fear of themselves and their failure which is making them to respond the way they are responding. I think that government must be much more careful. I accuse the majority leader and his deputy and his other colleagues at the front bench of the majority side of responding to every single comment and often starting fires when they shouldn't start the fires. Sure. When you are in leadership, you don't stoke fires. You are the one who put up fires. You don't want to fight every battle because you hear that there's somebody against you. You will spend all your time fighting when you should have been building. So it is the same thing now translating to governments, the bigger government body. That every small thing that people say, they want to spend time fighting it. The major thing that we are asking them to do, build our economy, make life easier for us, pay us our salary, let us see what you do with the loans that you keep taking from external sources, and you are not doing none of them. You are doing none of those ones. And essentially, they are saying they don't want to go to IMF, even though they are failing drastically in getting the e-levy pass. We're in the 3rd month of the year. They are failing, and yet they don't want to go to IMF. Like he said, going to IMF is not a problem because they have borrowed much more than IMF would have even given them. Borrowing and depending on your borrower is not the issue. The issue is the imposition of disciplinary measures and discipline in the way we do things. If you go to IMF and World Bank, they'll give you their money, but they'll say that, look, this is borrowed money. You can't use it to do ABCD. You said you want to use it to build. Please use it to build. Let us inspect that you use it to build. You said you want to use it to do this. Let us make sure that is what you want to use it to do. And they said they don't want that discipline. They want to do it the way they want it. And that is why they borrowed all this much money, close to 400 billion Ghana cedis, and you don't know what they have done to it, because there was no discipline in the use of the money. And they are sworn to say that we don't want to go to somebody who will give us conditions so that we can be disciplined. There's nothing pride about that. Ghanaians should not fancy that this is a good thing, and for which we are saying that, oh, Nanado says we won't go to IMF, so it's a good thing. What is goodness about that? Essentially, you are still poor. Essentially, you still go begging. It's the begging that you do that should be the problem. Not the fact that somebody says, well, give us the reasons you want to come for money. You slate the reason. You all agree these are the reasons. Then you take the money and you are doing something else, and you say they shouldn't talk. Why? Is your money yours? Is the money yours? If you go to the Euro bond, which is private money, and then you borrow money, and they don't care what you use the money for, but they know that in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time, they will take the money and give it back to the citizens who contribute the money for you to borrow. They don't care what you use the money for, because they are private people who contributed money into banks which you are going to borrow. They don't care. So at the end of the period you have stipulated you pay, you have to pay them. IMF and World Bank will follow up and make sure you do the right thing. And they say they don't want it. Anyway, that's not the point actually. The point is that their lies, failure, deceit of Ghanaians has come to bear on the economic fortunes of Ghana because of what they have done. And I know Ghanaians are seeing, and I'm encouraging Ghanaians, this is our government. We can't do anything about it until we vote. We don't want to do coup d'etats. We want to vote them out. The opportunity for you to vote is 2024. Let's go to the polls, vote them out. So we don't have situations where people are saying, oh, cool or not cool. No. We want to vote them out in 2024. It is the best thing for us to do, and we will do that. And let everybody keep in mind that this is not the kind of government we want. It doesn't matter who comes into office, but if it is anybody who comes in, go take money, borrow the people's money, and privatize the money to the point that you can't even show what you have done for the people, there must be some discipline. And the discipline will come from the people. And beyond that discipline must be some investigations to make sure that the people who have borrowed money and misused it, privatized it, are brought to book to be questioned for what they have done. And I hope and pray that we come to that point when we can ask the people who have misused the resources of this country to account for it.
Right. Thank you very much. Before I turn my attention to Mr. Pratt, let me do a few of your Facebook messages. Habib Abdullah says, good morning, Pan Africa, and your beautiful panelists. The Western world are to blame for all the wars that we are experiencing day in, day out. How many countries were invaded by the Western world? The possession of dangerous weapons by the Western countries has made them warmongers, and until they stop this mentality, I must admit we will be heading towards World War III. And Raymond Avevo says a bag of maize is sold at 600 Ghana cedi at Kita now. And Real Ghana says, good morning, Bless, and your able panelists. The hypocrisy of some of the world leaders is so hurting. Ghana's president should be measured in his reportage about the Russian-Ukraine war. Anafi Adam says, good morning, sir. Says Dr. Baumia, what is the exchange rate of the cedi to the dollar today, and the price of a liter of petrol and diesel? Don't tell me it's because of Ukraine. Good morning to my mentor, my father, Honorable Inusafu Hussein from Anafi in Tamale Central constituency. And Real Ghana goes on to say that why is this government so jittery when a coup is mentioned? Ghanaians are asking. And Suleiman Abdurrahim says, what kind of society are we in when you raise legitimate concerns? It's either you are being invited or threatened to be invited without looking at the substantive issue. And Ali Musa says there will never be a coup in Ghana because the majority of Ghanaians are Christians and follow their faith. All right. Hateka Kwesi Samson says, oh no, right, I can't read this one. Annette Latte says there are legal ways to remove a non-performing president, which is through impeachment. And okay. Gambo Sadiku says, good morning, bless, and your beautiful panelists, watching you live from Qatar. God bless you. And Last Dawn says, MPP have not failed Ghanaians. They have simply stolen our tax money. All these monies have to be accounted for. Thieves. Okay. So these are some of your messages on Facebook. I'll let you to keep them coming, and as and when time permits me, intermittently within the show, I'll do all to read all of them for you. Now let me turn my attention to the managing editor for the Insight newspaper, Mr. Pratt.
Well, clearly there's a lynch mob out there with stones and sticks trying to do everything possible to bring Raymond Atuguba down, to destroy his reputation, and if possible, pack him off and throw him into a cell. It is actually a lynch mob. A lynch mob, and their democratic pretensions are not even holding. I listened to Professor Raymond Atuguba, and his opening statement was clear. We don't want a coup d'etat. That was his opening statement. How do you turn around and accuse him of fanning the embers of coup d'etats? I can't believe it. And this lynch mob is made up of functioning government appointees, high-ranking government appointees, and communicators of the ruling party. And I feel so sad, so sick about what is happening to Professor Raymond Atuguba. Look, in this country, whether we like it or not, there are Democrats, there are fascists, there are tribalists, there are coupists, there are all kinds of people in this country. So even us, people like Professor Raymond Atuguba, do not want coup d'etats and may do everything to prevent coup d'etats. You understand? Nobody can say for sure that there would never be a coup d'etat in Ghana. Because we don't control all the factors. We don't know everybody. We don't think for everybody. We don't act for anybody. All that we can do as Democrats and so on is to constantly point to the dangers of coup d'etats and to warn the population against coup d'etats. That's all you can do. And that's exactly what Professor Atuguba was doing. I'm so surprised at this vitriolic attack on this innocent person. And then all of a sudden, he has become NDC's Raymond Atuguba. How possible? What is this? The NDC's position on the e-levy is that we will not pass it. Don't pay it. Professor Raymond Atuguba comes and says, in spite of the obnoxious nature of the e-levy, go and pay it. The man is breaking ranks with the NDC, even if he were an NDC member. And you still refer to him as NDC's Raymond Atuguba. What lopsidedness is this? The man, even if he were a member of the NDC, is breaking ranks with the NDC. And this whole NDC link comes about because he once served as secretary to former President John Dramani Mahama. Are we saying that everybody who serves as functions in any way around the president must belong to the president's party? That is not true. Why? Sule Garba, a leading member of the PNC, actually served the Mahama administration and remained loyal to the PNC until he died. Nimoy Thompson, a leading member of the Convention People's Party, and he's still a leading member of the Convention People's Party, served as the Director General of the National Development Planning Committee. Today, as we speak, they are members of the CPP serving in the National Petroleum Authority. You understand? Today, as we speak in the studio, one of the leading presenters in our country, Kwesi Pratt, is serving on the Energy Commission. Does that make him an MPP person? What is wrong with us? Why this unnecessary and unhelpful partisanship? Why? The things that Professor Raymond Atuguba spoke about, which of them is not true? Which of them is not true? Who is challenging the things that he said? This government and its supporters are becoming like old ladies. Huh? Yeah, old people. As soon as you mention dry bones, hey, they take offense. So now we are being told that we should remove coup from our dictionary. Coup should be removed from our dictionary, because even if you condemn coup d'etats, hey, you are bringing coup d'etats on us. The man was condemning coup d'etats. Hey, the man is bringing coup d'etats on us because he simply mentioned coup d'etat. What is this? Master, we are running into serious problems. So we are running into serious problems. But this will be linked to one of the topics that we may be discussing. I'm not sure if we have enough time to be discussing all the other topics.
Yeah,
you know.
Right.
In the pretension that we are guarding against coup d'etats and so on, we are busily subverting the Constitution. Why? A subversion of the Constitution is a coup d'etat. And we are busily subverting the Constitution in the name of preventing coup d'etats.
Right. Thank you so much, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. Let's briefly touch on what would be our final story. Former MP petitioned Speaker of absentee members, and that story was captured by the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let me read excerpts of it. It says a former National Democratic Congress member of Parliament for Kumbungu, Mr. Rasmu Barak, has petitioned the Speaker of Parliament to enforce constitutional provisions on absentee MPs. He said it was time Mr. Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin applied the provisions of Article 97 1C of the Constitution and Parliament Standing Order number 16.1 and refer those MPs to the Privileges Committee. Said it had been observed that through Parliament's Hansard and media reports, 4 new Patriotic Party MPs have absented themselves from Parliament for more than 15 sittings of meetings of Parliament without the permission of the Speaker in writing. He named the MPs as Sarah Adwasafo, the MP for Domkwabnya, Henry Korte, the MP for Ayawaso Central, Ebenezer Kojokum, the MP for Ahanta West, and Ken Ohene Japan, MP for Ascent Central. In view of this reported breach of the constitutional provision, I respectfully petition your high office to direct for their conduct to be referred to the Privileges Committee for consideration and necessary actions, he said. So the story goes on and on, but I think we know that particular situation, especially with the Adwoa Safo situation. Let me start with somebody who is in Parliament currently, the Member of Parliament for Wa Central.
This is a matter of law. The law states very clearly that if you miss Parliament on at least 2 weeks sitting days, then automatically you can lose your seat if you don't have tangible explanations as to why you missed the sittings. So when he talked about the 15 days, is to capture the real content of the law. But I'm very sure that if you summon these people before the Privileges Committee, each of them will give you reasons why they were absent without permission. But I think that sometimes we need to test the law and see how it goes. once such a matter is brought up, relegating it to the background will not give confidence of the public to our legislature. So sometimes it's best to try to test it. But in appealing to the speaker, we don't appeal to the speaker this way, in newspaper or even in writing to the speaker. We don't do that. An ordinary person who wants to appeal to the speaker will have to do that through a member of parliament. You will have to pass it through a member of parliament for an appeal to be made to the speaker. It is the way that our system goes. So if he actually wants to petition Mr. Speaker, he should find a member of parliament and appeal to him, through him, or he can bring his appeal. It will be received by leadership of parliament, and then they will then pass it on to the speaker. That is how we work. I don't have much to say in this, but just to say that members of parliament must be very careful where we are, and being responsible people, we have to demonstrate high responsibility and discipline so that we can be honorable in the eyes of the people who have elected us.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Honorable Inus Hussein.
Well, first of all, let me declare my position. I support the action of the former MP for Kumbungo. Article 97(1)(c) is very emphatic. A member's seat will be declared vacant if he has absent himself from Parliament for 15 sitting days without the permission of the Speaker in writing and without a reasonable explanation to the Committee on Privileges, starting from 15 days within a session, within a meeting in a session, and continuing when the session is meeting. When the meeting is taking place, is continuing. If you look at that provision, that is very instructive. Members of Parliament have got 3 core functions. 3. Some add 1 more to make it 4. They have a representative function. That is why the country is divided into 275 constituencies. So they represent people in the 275 constituencies. They have a legislative function. That is why Parliament is called the legislature, to make laws for us. They have an oversight responsibility arising from the fact that they have the power of the purse. So when you give money to the executive to spend, you must go and see that the money is used for the purposes for which you give them the money. So they exercise oversight responsibility. Some have added, because Parliament has the power to deliberate matters of national importance, they have a deliberative function as well. Aside the representative function of Parliament, the 3 other functions are not mentioned in the Constitution, as the absence of which, the non-performance of which an MP will vacate the seat. That should give you an indication that the representative function of Parliament is an important responsibility. It's a constitutional responsibility. Article 2 of the Constitution says that any act or omission that contravenes the Constitution, any person can take that action to the Supreme Court. If we contravene, and why do we have absenteeism in Parliament? If that representative function is so important to be captured in the Constitution and Order 16(1) of the Standing Orders of Parliament. So I say that, look, it just tells us clearly, and Honorable Rashid knows exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes you go to Parliament, Parliament is forced to adjourn because the numbers are not there. What happens to the money that we are spending to pay them? Can they have the moral authority to talk about corruption when you are receiving payment for no work done? In 2017, the last Parliament, the 7th Parliament, Lower West Akim MP absented himself for Parliament for how many years? 2 years. Received salary. It's not corruption. Did he work for the salary? Did he obtain permission? That's why I support this action. Sarah Josafu has absented herself from Parliament without the permission of the Speaker, and that this statement was made by the Speaker. I'm just quoting what the Speaker said. I had initially thought that Adjosafo, being a lawyer and aware of the provisions of Section 97(1)(c), would not do that without permission of the Speaker. But the votes and proceedings of Parliament clearly bears testimony to the fact that she left without permission. She's yet to report into the system. We are paying her. The Flagstaff House even funneled 120,000 cedis to her. A private jet was hired to go and bring her. When she represents the people of Dobe Kwabenya, and the people entitled to representation in Parliament. Does it mean that if you are elected a member of Parliament, you can choose to act with impunity? No. Article 97(1)(c) says impunity goes through the back door. If you are a member of Parliament, you can't choose to absent yourself from Parliament without permission. So if you absent yourself up to 14 days, the law is not invoked. By 15 days going, the law is invoked. But you see the problem, and the dereliction of duty is frowned upon by the Constitution. Parliamentarians must be setting good examples. So yes, so Herokote is mentioned. Yes, Kennedy Ajapon is mentioned. Impunity must not be tolerated. But you see, the problem is that it's Parliament. So Article 97(1)(c) does not show us procedure, apart from the general procedure captured in Article 2 of the Constitution. Article 2 of the Constitution leads you to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court doesn't sit in Parliament. But the procedure in Article 97(1)(c) must end in Parliament. And so, since the standing orders or the 16(1) and the Article 97(1)(c) of the Constitution doesn't indicate the procedure a person will take. And we know that the procedure is that in Parliament, if you want to invoke the jurisdiction of the Speaker, you have to come by motion. And Ras Mubarak is not a member of Parliament. How can he file a motion? So he petitions Parliament. He petitions Parliament. Parliament acts. Because everybody has a responsibility to enforce the constitutional provisions. Article 2. Everybody. So, Mr. Speaker, since you have made an observation that somebody has been absent for 15 sitting days in this meeting, Mr. Speaker, you are invited to act. Let's act. Because without such a thing, I have my doubts whether the member of the majority caucus will file a motion to refer, for the purposes of referring the conduct of Adjosafo to the Privileges Committee. I also doubt whether the minority will consider it their business to file a motion for the purposes of referring the conduct of Adjosafo to the Privileges Committee. So what happens? We leave it as it is. We have a duty to defend the Constitution. And defending the Constitution includes enforcing its provisions. And I think that this is the time for Parliament to speak on this matter.
Right, thank you so much. Before I come to Mr. Pratt, let me take this message from Kwesi Badohu. It says the belief of government communication is that it has sufficiently demonized the NDC, and thus anyone who is assigned to the NDC must necessarily be a devil and a nation wrecker whose views should be dismissed on sight. So anytime you don't sing the praise of government, anytime you don't sing the praise of government, you are quickly assigned to the NDC irrespective of the validity of what you say. Our government is made of special breed of Ghanaians, and anyone who disagrees with them must necessarily be wrong. So this message came from my good friend Kwesi Bado. Aglago Felix says, good morning. Ghana is sinking into a pit under Nana Akufo-Addo's government. And Asida Papa Sami also says, I'm surprised at the noise the NPP is making about the harmless and straightforward statement made by Professor Tuguba. His stance was very clear, I thought. And Alidu Inusa says all money stolen by state officials must be retrieved in 2025. And Ibrahim Boss is reminding us that he's watching us live from Hillsborough in New Jersey. So these are some of your comments. Now let me come to Comrade Pratt on this particular issue of absenteeism in Ghana's parliament.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have any comments to make for now on this matter.
For now,
right. I think we are hard pressed with time. So I'll do about 2 more of your messages, then we can call it a day. Roxindo says the MPP can go ahead and play their diversionary tactic towards pro Raymond instead of finding a solution as to how to bring back the economy and forget about the e-levy. Good morning to you and your cherished viewers. I'm watching you live from Kumbungu. My regards to Honorable Alaji. Cost of living is high. Nana Baumia government has failed Ghanaians. It's awful. So let us talk about that. Not only e-levy, nor absence from parliament by some honorable members. Please, we are suffering indeed. Oh, God save us from this tyrant. Big up to all my family and friends. All right, thank you so much. And so that's all time will permit us for this morning's edition of the show. Many thanks to my very intelligent and knowledgeable guests who joined me here to dissect the issues. Thank you so much, Honorable Rashid Pelpo. Thank you so much, Honorable Yusuf Husseini. Thank you so much, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. It's it's been fun. It's been nice. It's been interesting, and I hope we all learned as much and as I also did. Do have a pleasant day. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye bye.